robot just passing overhead. So give yourself about 5 seconds.
Okay.
And
Sorry.
right.
I'll sit in.
And action.
Gross. I just inhaled a fly.
Nice
So gross.
What did you add?
And we got all that on video and tape.
No.
I killed one in my nose yesterday.
Still rolling?
Energy, serious.
Are you there?
Good, let's go again. When you do too late, it's almost a deeper voice. Too late. Too late.
Okay, got it.
So it's like, oh, it's in my butt already, basically. That's basically what it is. And it changes the, it's just too late.
Do you really want me to growl it like too late?
He's like, yeah.
Yeah. It will be interesting. It might get a laugh. It'll, yeah, it's too late.
Too late. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. Okay.
All right.
And then one of my favorite things is when we did additional scenes, which we did a ton of additional scenes shooting. I think like 6 months. It would be like, okay, now I need this shot, now I need that shot, because he looks at the whole flow of the overall project. He's a visionary, and he would see what it was gonna be, and he'd already know it before he shot it. And he's very into his lenses, and my favorite lens had come out, and I'd get all excited because I knew it was gonna look amazing, and we wanna look amazing.
It wasn't reshoots as much as shooting extra footage, but we would constantly be shooting in the height of summertime, which was really a curse. And I did that once before on Battle Space, and I remember the actors don't like me so much. You know, some actors out there would probably like to have me killed, I'm sure. But you know, that's the process you go through to get a film made and do your very best. And I mean, I have to avoid the actors who are lazy. You know, you get a lot of famous actors around you, but a lot of famous actors can't be physical, can't push themselves. They want to take a nice ride on a film set and just sit in luxury and just, you know, say a few lines and think they're golden. You know, I can't work with those actors because they're not going to give 100%. You know, I need an actor who's hungry, who wants to give their soul for the role. Because I mean, I'm giving my soul, I'm giving everything I have physically. I couldn't always get my DP when we had to shoot extra scenes, and I was shooting a lot of the stuff myself. And I mean, I had no choice. It was like, you know, it was like a workout for me. So I was constantly just, you know, lobbing out to the desert, driving 5 hours for one shot. It literally got down to that sort of thing because, you know, I wanted to make the film look as visually interesting as possible.
It was a gut-wrenching journey, that's for sure. You know, you're sweating, your heart's pounding, you're being belted by sand and wind and everything. We have all of the elements against you. And when the wind would start howling and we're out in the desert and it's like getting in my ears and getting my nose and my mouth and my eyes, and Neil's really excited, the director's really excited because it's real and because it puts you into that element, but at the same time you're still dealing with it. And there were a few times where like, it's like, no, that wasn't what you weren't supposed to fall there, you're supposed to fall later. It was like, yeah, but doing what I was doing, I really fell. I mean, when you look at the script, you're doing, the character's doing all of these things, but then you're doing them in these big, bulky, heeled boots and, you know, in costume and stuff like that. And, you know, you do fall, and then you do keep falling, and then you do injure yourself.
It was so much fun.
We crashed the helicopter too.
And we crashed the helicopter. And that time when I rolled down, the sound was so soft that I screamed, and I got a mouthful of sand.
And you hurt your tailbone.
The tailbone was already hurt, my knee was already hurt, and I twisted my ankle the other day. Besides that, I'm fine. I have a few bruises. I'll be fine by tomorrow.
Nice sunset.
And I injured myself, I'd say, a good couple of 100 times. I mean, I was pretty much covered in bruises. You know, when you're sliding down the walls and you can stucco down your shirt and everything's scraping you, and Neil's like, oh, that looks great, I could see where you're scraped. So it made it very, very real though, because you're really feeling that pain. You're really, that limp when you hurt your leg from falling off the speeder bike, you know, and that becomes, you know, that character's been battered and bruised, and that becomes part of what you're living, and it just makes it also more real. And in the locations that we shot in and things like that, I mean, you just get there and they're so inspiring, and it's getting your soul, you know, make your heart pound, and all these things going on, and explosions and people and crew, and it was extremely exhilarating, to say the least. What was nice was the actors were so good, and everybody brought their A game, and I think that's one of the reasons why there were additional scenes and things too, is because people brought so much to the table, and then it's like, okay, now we need to work with this. And he did a complete rewrite once we did casting. and was brilliant to bring out the best of what each of those actors had to offer, and to bring out their strengths and to bring out their character and everything, so that it wasn't just a stereotypical character being played by this person.
The great thing about finding good actors, and I mean, we put a lot of effort into the casting of this movie, and it was very pleasant for me to say that every single actor in this film was perfect. I was extremely pleased to know that every single actor we had in this movie was apart from the fact they're famous and well trained and everything else, they all gave 100%, and you can see that, it does show in some of the scenes. You'll see Tracy and William Kircher and Stephen Manley as well as in that. There was a great energy always in that room.
So one of the interesting things about preparing for this character was that she's so multidimensional. I mean, you can talk about a schizophrenic if you want, how you have a couple of different personalities going on, but in her journey, she starts out and she has no memory. She only goes back 7 years from an accident. So she starts out, and that's her idea of everything. And then she has some self-discovery of who she is, and then she has some self-discovery of what she is, and then she has some self-discovery of what else has been added into her. And then, her boyfriend dies and all these things happen, and so she has so many different emotional places that she goes to that then there's this time where it's almost a breakdown and an overload. And then she's hearing voices in her head at the same time. So when I prepared for this character, I had to color code everything. What does she know? Does she know who she is? Does she know what she is? Basically had to color code it, and then before we'd shoot those scenes, I had to put myself into that place. And sometimes it was a little bit like being in a box, so it got a little frustrating because here I am working opposite, William Kircher, and I have all these great things that I would do if it was just a scene and she was a single-dimensional character. But because of all the things that I knew and because of all the things that were going on, I had to hold all that back, and it became very, very interesting to see, because when you're living a character and you only know what they know at that point and you only feel what they know at that point, then although it's very freeing, it also can be very limiting, because your first job when you're making a film is to make it where the character, where you're going on her journey too, where you're living it with her too. And so I would say that was a really interesting thing that I hadn't experienced before, that I experienced for the first time in this film.